Hello there, my beloved friends. A new year begins with quiet hope. Let peace find its way to you. A fellow from Ohio told me last week, speaking in that gentle, worn, soft way only time can teach. He said, "These days, my memory's like an old radio. Some stations come in sharp, others drift off into static." He laughed softly, and so did I. But you know what? Funny thing is, the older he gets, the clearer those childhood summers tune in. Do you ever catch your heart strolling back to those long golden evenings? Today I brought you two pictures, two gentle memories from small-town America. Nothing complicated, nothing fancy, just two moments your heart might recognize right away. Picture number one, a quiet sunrise over an old red barn. The kind of barn that has seen generations pass by, holding the scent of fresh hay and morning dew. Picture number two, a peaceful lakeside porch at dusk. The sky painted peach and gold, the evening breeze brushing against your cheek as someone you love calls you back home. Which one speaks to your heart today? There is no right answer. Just let your heart lean quietly toward the one that whispers to you. Take your time, no rush at all. And please leave a comment below telling me which picture called your name. I'll be right here, keeping you quiet company. In 5 seconds, I'll quietly unfold the story hidden in that scene for you. Thank you, dear friend, for choosing. Whichever picture you pick today will become a small light that brightens your day. Now let's step into that memory together. The old barn at sunrise. Let's start with the morning barn, shall we? This is the first picture. Dawn arrives quietly in small towns. It doesn't shout, it doesn't push, it simply brushes the fields with golden light, as if waking up the world with a soft hand. The old red barn stands tall, though its wood has weathered through decades of summers and winters. Its color, once bright, now softened by time. But in the morning light, it still glows with pride, like a guardian watching over the land. Back then, summer mornings carried a special kind of warmth. Not hot, not heavy, just warm enough to tell you that a new day had begun. You remember the smell, don't you? Fresh hay and cool soil, coffee brewing inside the farmhouse, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of a rooster greeting the sun, the old screen door slamming as someone stepped outside. That screen door was the unofficial soundtrack of summer. When I was small, I followed my father into the barn early in the morning. My small footsteps landed in the dust. He stirred up with his boots. Our old tractor never started on the first try, not once in its life. Dad used to say, "She's just a little shy before breakfast." I watched him move with steady hands, feeding the animals, checking the tools, adjusting a loose hinge on the barn door. Every motion done with the same gentle rhythm he learned from his own father. And while he worked, he spoke to me in that unhurried summer tone. "Hand me that rope, kiddo. Hold the door for me, would you?" The kind of request that made me feel important, useful, loved. Truth be told, we probably made more work than we solved. But Dad never said so. One morning, I asked him, "Dad, why does the barn smell like this?" He smiled and said, "That right there is the smell of a day that's going to turn out just fine." I didn't understand it then. But now I do, Anichi. Outside, the sun climbed higher, light falling through the barn slats like golden ribbons. Dust particles floated quietly in the beams, glowing as if tiny stars had drifted down from the sky. Some mornings, my mother stood on the porch, waving a dish towel as she called out cheerfully, "Breakfast is ready, come on in." And the smell of bacon, eggs, and toast would drift across the yard, warm, inviting, familiar. Do you remember mornings like that? You know how it is. Those were the mornings that shaped us, weren't they? Not the big events, not the achievements, but the small routines, the simple warmth of a home waking up, the barn door sliding open, the morning breeze brushing your face, the knowledge that your parents were near. Nowadays, I live in a place with no barn, no fields to walk across. But the warmth of that barn at sunrise still lives gently inside my chest, my father adjusting his hat before heading out. His back as he worked, steady and strong. Just watching him made me feel safe. We didn't have much back then, but funny how memory works. My heart kept the warmth, and let the worries fade out. And the day in a small town always continues, doesn't it? If there's a morning, there's an evening. If there's sunrise, there's sunset. The lakeside porch at dusk. Now let's step into the second picture, shall we? This is the second picture. Evening has a way of smoothing the edges off the whole world. The sun lowers gently, painting the sky in deep peach and soft tangerine. Shadows stretch long across the wooden porch boards. And somewhere nearby, crickets begin their nightly song. The lake breeze brings that pine and grass smell you can almost taste. You remember evenings like that, don't you? That quiet peace at the end of the day felt so good. The lakeside porch held its own kind of story. In the evening, maybe your father came home on his bicycle. That old bike squeaked so loud, you could hear him coming from 2 blocks away. Just the sound of his footsteps crunching on the gravel path was enough to tell you who was arriving. I didn't realize it back then, but now I think about it. Even the smell of dust on his clothes felt warm. A neighbor calling her children's names from the yard. Songs drifting from a radio somewhere, laughter from next door. All of it wove together to create the feeling of home. Walking down by the lake in the evening, you'd catch all kinds of dinner smells. One house, grilling fish, another frying chicken, and from somewhere else, fresh-baked pie cooling on a windowsill. Every porch telling its own story, and somewhere someone always burning something. That was the smell of home. You know how it is. Just the smell of evening cooking can walk your heart right back home. Back then, books were fine, but life was the real teacher. There were no tall fences like today, just low wooden railings, so you could see into each other's yards. Asking after each other felt like the most natural thing in the world. Sitting on the porch felt like the whole world was home. As you look at this scene, does the warmth of some evening quietly rise in your heart? My mother waiting for me at the end of the path. My siblings and I laughing as we ran around until dusk. When she'd call us in for dinner, we'd run even farther away, just for fun, until she'd finally say with a smile, "Come on in now, you hear?" Funny how life works, isn't it? Now no one calls me in, but I go inside early anyway. All those moments still warm my heart when I remember them now. Whether it's a morning barn or an evening lake, what we truly miss is the warmth of the people who were there with us. We didn't know it then, but my goodness, those really were the good days. Whatever picture you chose today, I know it holds the gentle breath of someone you loved. Because memory, when it's warm, never turns its back on you. And even as the years pass, that warmth never fades. Thank you so much for being here today, dear friend. Your single subscription keeps this little radio warm and alive. With your like, your share, and your kind comment, please share your story and your feelings from today. May this little radio be a quiet corner where your heart can rest.